Have you ever looked at the news, seen all these headlines about a booming economy, and then looked at your own bank account and thought, something just doesn't add up here? Yeah, you're not alone. Today, we're going to dive into the hidden forces that explain why the economy you feel might be completely different from the one you see on TV.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the mystery we're all facing. On one hand, you've got financial markets hitting these incredible new highs, but on the other, so many people feel like they're just running faster and faster to stay in the exact same place. And this isn't just a feeling, it's a real, documented paradox. So that brings us to the big question, right? Why does it feel so broken for so many of us when all the news reports are saying it's strong? Well, it's not just one single thing. It's actually a collection of powerful and often invisible forces that are reshaping our financial lives. So let's break them down. Okay, first up, it's really crucial to understand that we're not really living in one single economy anymore. When you look at the data, it paints a picture of two completely different worlds happening at the exact same time. And wow, the contrast here is just stark. On the left, you've got the Wall Street story, record-breaking stock markets, gold prices soaring, crypto booming. But on the right, that's the Main Street story. We're talking credit card debt topping $1.2 trillion, with people falling behind on payments at the highest rate in over a decade. The craziest part? Both of these things are true right now. So where does a disconnect that huge even come from? Well, a really big piece of the puzzle is hiding in our paychecks. And it's a gap that's been getting wider and wider for decades. Get this, since the early 1970s, American workers have become way more productive. We're talking 74% more value created per hour. But the pay for the typical worker has only gone up by 9% in that entire time. So you have to ask, where is all that extra money and value going? Because it's not flowing back into the paychecks of the people who are creating it. So what does that gap actually mean for you in real dollars? Well, according to the Economic Policy Institute, this growing inequality costs the average middle-class family almost $18,000 in a single year. I mean, think about that. That's a huge amount of money that could have gone into savings or a down payment or just paying down debt. You can almost think of it like an inequality tax that gets taken out of your potential earnings before you ever even see it. All right, next up is something we are all feeling every single day: inflation. The official numbers tell one story, but they often miss these hidden factors that make everything feel so much worse. So first, there's what some people call skimflation. This is what happens when companies cut corners to save money. Maybe your favorite bag of chips has a lot more air in it, or customer service takes forever to pick up the phone, or the ingredients they don't seem as good as they used to be. The price tag didn't change, but the value you're getting for your money definitely has. It's a really subtle but super important difference. With regular inflation, your money buys less stuff. With skimpflation, your money still buys the thing, it's just, it's worse. And that drop in quality, it doesn't get captured in the official inflation numbers. Another one of these hidden factors is something called frequency bias. The official inflation number, the CPI, is basically a big average of all sorts of things people buy. But just look at how small the slices are for the things we buy all the time, like food and gas.
Right, so because we see the price of gas and groceries change every single week, sometimes every day, our perception of inflation gets totally dominated by those items. So even if the price of a car or a new couch, which the CPI counts heavily, is totally stable, that soaring price of milk and bread makes us feel like everything is getting way more expensive, way faster than the official numbers are telling us.
Now, there's another major force at play that starts with decisions made way up in Washington, D.C., but it ends right inside your wallet. It's the delayed but incredibly powerful impact of the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes. Economists call this the lag effect, and it basically works like a chain reaction. First, the Fed raises its interest rate to fight inflation. Then it gets more expensive for banks to borrow money. So what do the banks do? They pass those higher costs onto you with higher mortgage rates and higher credit card rates. The idea is that over time, this is all supposed to cool down the economy. But that lag, it takes time, and the immediate result for millions of people is a really painful squeeze. While we're all waiting for the policy to work, the interest rates on credit card debt, which we already know is at a record high, have shot up to the highest levels ever recorded. It's a total double whammy: more debt
and much more expensive debt. Okay, this next invisible force is a constant, quiet drain on our finances that adds up to a lot over time: the explosion of hidden fees.
As author Devin Fergus puts it, we pretty much live in a land of the fee. And these aren't just small annoyances. They actually represent this massive transfer of wealth, and it's often happening without any real oversight.
And I mean, think about it. These fees are everywhere. Your utility bills, concert tickets, airline tickets, student loans, your bank account, even mortgages. Each one might seem kind of small on its own, but when you add them all up, they're a way for companies to raise the price you pay without ever changing the sticker price, just slowly bleeding household budgets dry. So, what happens when you put all of these pieces together? You've got the two separate economies, the pay disconnect, the hidden inflation, that interest rate squeeze, and all those endless fees. Well, you get our final, and honestly, our most important concept.
And right here, this is the aha moment. All of these forces we've been talking about combine to create what economists call a K-shaped economy. It's a really simple but powerful way to visualize what's happening right now. Just imagine the letter K. The top arm is shooting upwards, right? That represents the reality for people who own assets and investments. They're benefiting from record markets and all this AI-driven growth. But then there's the bottom arm of the K, and it's sloping downwards. That's the reality for so many others, and it's defined by record debt, purchasing power that just isn't keeping up, and the need to get a side hustle just to make ends meet.
So this brings us right back to the core takeaway. When you hear that the economy is strong, it is absolutely essential to ask which one. Because for a huge portion of the country, the experience on the ground feels nothing like the headlines. Now, the point of all this isn't to be pessimistic. It's just to be clear-eyed about what's going on. By actually seeing these interconnected forces, the diverging economies, the pay gap, the hidden inflation, the Fed squeeze, all those junk fees, we can get a much better handle on the world we're actually living in. And that awareness, that's the first step to making smarter financial decisions for yourself.
And that leaves us with one last really important question to think about. If the big headline numbers like GDP and unemployment don't really capture the full picture of what people are actually experiencing, then what metrics should we be paying attention to? That's definitely something we're thinking about.